the left is consumed with the question of whether the Trump administration is going to defy judicial rulings. So far, they're denouncing judicial rulings, but not defying them. But there seems to be a certainty. The New York Times has gotten exclusive interviews with many law school deans. And Sean, law school deans often have the last word in American polity.
100%.
100%. So, in all seriousness, Sean, the left is worried that there'll be a judicial order and President Trump will simply say no. And as they discussed on MSNBC this morning, get ready to roll tape, there's really no great alternative. If the executive branch defies the judicial branch, it's not really clear what recourse the judiciary has in a case where you cannot jail the president, and fining the federal government is not really worth much. Roll tape, please.
How does a judge hold an administration in criminal contempt? I mean, who do you can't jail the president, obviously. In fact, if we remember, Donald Trump was held in criminal contempt by the New York judge in his criminal case, but that judge was very reluctant to mete out that ultimate sanction of jail time. It didn't happen when he was the ex-president. It's not going to happen when he's the president. So what are the remedies? I mean, we were gaming this out yesterday. Are they going to throw some hapless Justice Department lawyer who happens to be in the courtroom, throw that person in jail? Do they levy fines? What would be the point of fining the federal government, which has unlimited resources? So we're really at that point where it's starting to become a practical question, not just a theoretical question. And the other issue is it's really difficult for the judge to get the facts when you have a government agency and the plaintiffs aren't allowed inside, and you have Elon Musk and his people and they're saying, well, we are spending the money, and folks are saying, well, we're not getting the money. So it's a really difficult situation, guys.
So, Sean, should the left be concerned, or no, I don't like to ask yes, no questions. How concerned should the left be that Donald Trump will defy a judicial ruling?
So let me just get up on my soapbox for a sec. First of all, the left loves to use the phrase without evidence. There's no evidence that that's going to happen. And yet everyone from the New York Times to MSNBC has created this faux notion of a constitutional crisis. Let's see what happens. There's no evidence that they will defy a court order. In fact, so far, this one, 5 stays? He had multiple stays during his first term on various things, and nothing happened that was out of the ordinary. So let's pump the brakes, take a breath, take a beat, and see what happens. Secondly, let's find out. I mean, my understanding from some of the dialogue is that there are some potential alternatives that don't involve jailing the president of the United States, but the court does have some additional remedies. Let's see what happens. Let it play out. But this panic that MSNBC, NBC, the New York Times, Politico, everybody else has gotten on board with. Joe Biden defied the Supreme Court when it came to student loans. He defied the Supreme Court on multiple other issues. He flouted the ability they didn't have to, abide by certain rulings when it came to immigration and other things. So this notion that somehow we're at this brink of a constitutional crisis is a little overblown.
Sean, let me just press you on the point that they raise and that Ken Delaney and MSNBC, NBC talked about. If they do decide to not comply with the judicial order, what do you think the judiciary can and would do?
I don't know, but I feel like, a moment ago when you were asked, you said, I don't want to bet or engage. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. Well, let's let the lawyers figure it out, what the options are. There's a lot of judges that have a lot of things. But to insinuate something that has not been, the Trump administration has not signaled they intend to defy them. So let's.
JD Vance.
Yeah, Elon Musk has. Yeah,
they've signaled.
No.
They might have a different kind.
The court.
They
criticized the court.
They said they're not. They basically said they're not bound by it. But I agree with you. I try to follow your lead and not be upset by the consensus view of law school deans contacted by the New York Times. Dan, is this a real issue or not?
I don't think it's a real issue yet. I mean, I agree with Sean. I think part of the party's problem is we kind of go to 11 on every single thing. I mean, it was Hitler. Now it's like it's a constitutional crisis. I think rather than a lot of this, if you watch MSNBC and you listen to the left, it still always goes back to Trump. And I think the for Trump, I actually think, or for the Republican, party, he probably would almost prefer the court stop him, because then he has a boogeyman, right? If he's not able to get stuff done, he can point and say, the courts are stopping us. I would have gotten A, B, C, and D done, but those SOBs stopped me. So I actually think he wouldn't mind some obstruction being put in his way to keep the base fired up. The second thing for Democrats that I would say is, I would just stick to, we are a nation of rule of law, law and order. Don't make it about an individual, about Musk, about Trump. Just, we are a nation of rules. They apply to everyone. And if the new precedent is that one can just blow off what the court says, then we are going to start becoming a very different country. I would just stick to that high level principle and that value, because if you look at historically, when Democrats talked about expanding the Supreme Court and things of that nature, the public recoils and says, no, we don't like this. I know the bases will get kind of worked up, but that middle 10 or 20% does not like it when you ignore the courts. They don't like it when people start steamrolling and disobeying law and order. So I would try to own that and paint the Republicans as extreme.
I think, by the way, the one thing that Trump's got going with him for him is so much of this stuff is common sense. We're exposing some of the most unbelievable waste and fraud in this government. And the idea that if Trump wants to go, to Dan's point, I think the smart play on any of this would say, I'm literally going after waste, fraud, and abuse, exposing the most extreme disrespect of your tax dollars that you work hard for to send to Washington. And this is what the left is willing to fight me on. This is what they want to continue. They want to cover up DEI carnivals in Ireland and Colombia and trans festivals. And, if that's what you guys, if the left wants to go all in on that, I think that Trump would be smart to say, you know what, guys, I'm fighting for you. Elon's sleeping on a mattress in a federal building, and this is what the left wants to stand up for. You got a choice. I'll go fight it out in court for you, but this is what's going on.
Yeah, it's the status quo versus change. And Democrats have gotten into this trap where all we do every day is bang the drum. It's like Animal House. All is well, remain calm, as you're getting stampeded by the general population that is cheering on the reform and the change. Not all of it, but the party has got to stop saying status quo. It's good. Everything is fine. You can't touch anything. It's just not where the country is.